Okay, solve the equation. We have negative 24 times x to the second equals 9 times x. So I have to solve for x. You're finding two answers. You put how many answers in the power of your x variable. So there's going to be two answers because you have x to the second. Now put the powers to of the x variable. You have x to the second and you have x to the first. So since you have these two different powers of the x variable, you need to be equal to 0. Okay? You're not equal to 0, so you put 0 and you get the 9x out of there. Now you want to put that up here and hang it out. You don't want to put it with the negative 24 because that's x to the second. That's x. Okay? There's totally different terms. Now, when you get the 0, you put equals 0, then you slot it. So x to the second, x, constant. So if I have x second, I'm going to have negative 24. X is going to be the negative 9. And then the constant in this problem would just be 0, so that means that slot is deleted. Okay? If it's 0, you would scribble that out. Now you're equal to 0. Now you can draw your GCF box. Now, I'm going to make a wall on this side, and then I'm going to decide what I'm going to put here before you just go up and divide. You fill that out before you divide. So, you check for x on the back end on the last term, and it's there. Remember, I deleted this one. You check the front for a negative sign. Got it. Okay. So if the front is negative, if you have a negative in the front, I expect to see a negative in your GCF. Then find the GCF of the coefficients, 29 and 24 and 9. So I'd go to the there's 9, 24 would be 3, okay? Now, what do you have there? You don't have just negative 3. You have negative 3x. So you need to go up here and divide by negative 3x, not just negative 3. So negative 24 divided by negative 3 is positive 8. Now to divide the x to the second by the x, these cancel and you have x. Then negative 9 divided by negative 3 is positive 3, so we put a positive 3. And then x divided by x cancels. Now this has been filled out. Now, I'm going to bring these over here. And I'm going to F1, F2, and I'm going to solve. Okay, so F1, negative 3x could equal 0. F2, 8x plus 3 could equal 0. So over here, between the 3 and the x is a times. So you need to do the opposite of times, which is to divide. 0 divided by negative 3 is 0. Then over here you got times 8 plus 3. So you take out your plus 3 with your minus 3. 0 minus 3 is negative 3. Then you need to divide by the 8. Negative 3 divided by 8 is negative 0.375. So you can put that, or if you don't like that, you can go second PRB, negative 3/8. Either put that or that. I don't care which one. Okay, 2x to the second power plus 8x equals 0. So again, put how many answers and the power of what your variables to. So x, there's two answers. The variable is the x is to the second, and it is also to the first in the same equation. So you have to use factoring because you can't combine those. Okay, now circle your equals. And I think you're already at equals 0, so you don't have to do that nonsense where you bring it over and slot it. Go right to your box. GCF. Now, put a wall on that side. This is where you're looking. You check for x on the end. It's there. You check the front, the very first number for a negative. It's not there, so we will not put a negative on this one. Find the GCF of the coefficients. So you have 2 and 8. So those would be in row 2. Then you put a parentheses, then you go up and divide after that's filled out by 2x. So 2 divided by 2 is 1, x to the second divided by x, that's x. 8 divided by 2 is 4, so it's positive 4. Then x divided by x cancels. So now you F1, F2 and solve. So you got 2x, you got 1x plus 4 equals 0. F1, F2. So 2x could equal 0, or the 1x plus 4 could equal 0. So you divide by 2, 0 divided by 2 is 0. Then over here you got times 1 and plus 4. So you can take out the plus 4 with minus 4. 0 minus 4 is negative 4. And then divide by 1. Negative 4 divided by 1 is negative 4. Okay, next problem. We have 14 times x to the second equals 28 times x. So there are 2 answers to this problem. You have x to the second, and you've also got x to the first. Okay? So, because that x is to 2 different powers, you have to apply factoring. You need the equal 0. We don't have it. So, you move that over, hang it out, and then put equals 0 and slot it. X second, x constant. X second, 14. X, negative 28. Constant, there is no constant, it would just be 0, so get rid of it. Okay? Now that you're equal to 0, you can make your GCF box. Check for the x at the end, okay? Put the wall there, okay? You have x on the end, the last term. Remember, I got rid of this one because it was 0. The front number is not a negative, so we're not going to put a negative. Then 14 and 28. That'd be 14. They're also in 7 row, but it's got to be the deepest row down the table. 14, 28 is 14. Then 14x, so I expect to see you putting 14x underneath here and dividing. So that's 1 x second divided by x, that's x. Negative 28 divided by 14 is negative 2, so I put negative 2. We're now going to call that a minus 2. And then x divided by x cancels. So this doesn't have one. So you have 14x, and you have 1x minus 2 equals 0. Now it's in factored form. F1, F2. So 14x could equal 0, or 1x minus 2 could equal 0. So here you're dividing by 14, that's it, and x equals 0. Over here, you got times and minus, so you take out your minus 1 with a 2 with a plus 2, and that's 2. Then you divide by your 1. 2 divided by 1 is 2. Okay, negative 6x to the second minus 15x equals 0. So there are 2 answers to this equation. We have x to the second, and we've also got x to the first, so we are factoring. So you need it equal to 0, we're there, we're set. So I don't need to deal with that problem. Now I make my GCF box. Now so you know you're going to have equals 0 down there. Okay, draw that line so you know exactly where you're looking. You're looking at these. 0 is not part of this part. Okay, I clear everything to one side. Check for the X on the end. It's there. Check the front for the negative. Oh, it's there, so I expect to see the negative out there. Then 6 and 15. 6 and 15 are in row 3. You wrap that up and you underline your binomial terms, and whatever you have there, negative 3x, you put that underneath, both of them. So negative 6 divided by negative 3 is 2. X second divided by x. So you have x. Negative 15 divided by negative 3 is positive 5. And then x divided by x cancels. So you have your negative 3x. And then your 2x plus 5. So, equals 0, F1, F2. So, negative 3x could equal 0, or 2x plus 5 could equal 0. So, divide by negative 3. 0 divided by negative 3 is 0. Okay? Times plus. So, minus 5, minus 5. 0 minus 5 is negative 5. Divide by 2, divide by 2. Negative 5 divided by 2 is a decimal. You can put the decimal. If you like the second PRB it, you can write it as negative 2.5. Either pick the decimal or the fraction, I don't care. Okay, 3x to the second power minus 9x equals 0. So there are two solutions. Put how many answers and the power of your x variables. You have x second and you got x to the first. So that's why we have to do all this new crap, because we have two different powers of x that cannot be combined. So you have to factor. You need your equal to 0. You're there. You're set. So when you're set, you can make your box. GCF. Okay, just what that is. Now you fill this outside part out first. You check for x on the final term. Oh, it's there. You check the front for a negative. The negative is not on the first number. It's always the first number you go off of as for determining whether you need a negative or not. GCF of coefficients 3 and 9, so 3 and 9 is 3. Then, since you put that up here, you go up and divide by that 3x. Yes, not just 3, 3x. So 3 divided by 3 is 1, x second divided by x cancels, and you have x. Negative 9 divided by 3 is negative 3. So you put negative 3, now you divide your x's. Well, they just cancel. So you have 3x and then 1x minus 3. It's like you're taking this and rewriting it into two simpler parts with a product. So F1, F2. So 3x could equal 0, or 1x minus 3 could equal 0. Take out the times with a divide. So x equals 0 times 1 minus 3. So you plus 3 plus 3. 0 plus 3 is 3. Divide by 1. 3 divided by 1 is 3. So 0 and 3. Okay, negative 8x to the second power equals 14x. So I've got two answers. The variable x, you have x to the second, and you got x to the first. Okay, so you are factoring. Do you have your 0? No, you don't. So you're going to put your 0 there, you're going to minus your 4x, you're going to hang it out, then you're going to quickly slot it. The slots help you keep stuff separate rather than know what goes together. So x seconds negative 8, the x is negative 4. The constant slot would just be 0 because there is no number in there without an x, okay? So you are allowed to scribble that out. Now you set up your GCF. So I make that wall, and now I'm looking over here. You have x at the end. Remember, you took this out, so the x is at the end. Check the front for a negative. Oh, we have a negative in the front. The very first thing has a negative. It's negative, so I expect to see a negative. 8 and 4. 4 and 8, that'd be 4. Now you go up and divide by negative 4x. So negative 8 divided by negative 4 is 2. Then I divide x second by x. That's x. Negative 4 divided by negative 4 is positive 1. Then I divide my x by my x. And that cancels. So now you go F1, F2 and solve. So F1, F2. So negative 4x could equal 0, or 2x plus 1 could equal 0. So you take out your times by dividing. 0 divided by negative 4 is 0. And over here, you got times 2 plus 1. So times 2, you take out your plus 1 with a minus 1. 0 minus 1 is negative 1, and then divide by 2. Negative 1 divided by 2 is negative 0.5. If you don't like that, if you don't like decimals, you can second PRB it and be negative 1/2. Either this or this. Pick one or the other. Okay, then finally, we have negative 16x to the second power plus 80x equals 0. So we have two answers. We have x to the second, and just like on all the rest, we also have x to the first. So you are factoring. So that's what this means. Now, equals 0. Yes, you do. You're set, so you go straight to the box. So you have x on the end. You check for the x on the end. Should put end. Now you go to the front and see if there's a negative sign. There is, so I expect to see a negative. Then 16 and 80. 16 and 80 are in 16's row. Got to be the furthest row down. They're also in a bunch of other rows together, but 16's the furthest down. Then you divide by negative 16x. So that's 1 x second divided by x. It's x. 80 divided by negative 16 is negative 5, so negative 5. And then x divided by x cancels. Okay, F1, F2 and solve. So take the parentheses over here. Then F1, F2. So negative 16x equals 0. 1x minus 5 equals 0. So you divide by negative 16. 0 divided by negative 16, 0. Then, take out your minus 5 with a plus 5. That's 5. Then divide by 1, divide by 1. 5 divided by 1 is 5.